But I did want to ask you a question about globalism, because one of the biggest arguments I run into with like a lot of my libertarian friends or fiscally conservative friends is they argue that, well, globalism lifts other people from other parts of the world out of poverty in a sense. Like, if I own a business, why can't I set up shop somewhere in China or Cambodia or someplace like that and take somebody, or India, or take somebody who was making 10 cents a day to making $10 a day? Isn't that lifting someone out of poverty? What are your thoughts on that? And
yeah, it is lifting someone out of poverty. Absolutely, absolutely. But it's like, please don't try to pretend to me that you give a rat's ass about that. Please don't try to pretend to me that you really care about that person in India being lifted out of poverty, because we all know that what you're really doing is you're saying, to hell with that guy in Flint, Michigan, who is making $16, $18 an hour working in that factory, or the guy in Indiana who was working in the carrier factory making $35 an hour. To hell with him, to hell with his family, to hell with the state, to hell with the United States. I'd rather make more profit by having somebody in China make this thing for 50 cents an hour. And yeah, it's going to lift them out of poverty, and I'm going to wave that flag like I'm some kind of noble person. You're not a noble person. You're a capitalist. And, I get it. And frankly, if business people in this country will not behave in a way that benefits this country, we need to have rules that incentivize them to. And we historically did. We didn't, we've never said, and I'm not advocating that we should say, you can't, have something manufactured in China or India or something like that. We've never said that. Instead, what we said, and we were quite clear about it, and literally from 1793 until the 1980s, what we said is, if there's $1 worth of labor in a pair of shoes made in Connecticut, and you want to make those shoes in Mexico where it's 50 cents worth of labor, or in China where it's 20 cents worth of labor, then when those shoes get imported from Mexico, there's a 50-cent tariff at the border, so that it's still going to cost you $1 to make the shoes. If you bring them in from China, there's going to be an 80-cent tariff at the border, so it still costs you $1 to make the shoes. So you might as well just make the shoes here in the United States. In other words, we define the rules of the game the same way you define the rules of a football game. You say you can't just go up and punch somebody in the kidneys, right? I mean, It might be a great way to win a football game, take out the quarterback, but we're not going to let you do that, because it's not in the best interest of the sport. It's not in the best interest of the team. It's not in the best interest of the audience. It's just not in anybody's best interest, except that one selfish son of a bitch pardon my phrasing, SOB, who punched the guy in the kidneys. You get it? And basically what these people are saying is, I'm going to punch my country in the kidneys. I'm going to punch a family in the kidneys in the United States. And I'm going to pretend that I'm doing it for some noble reason, because I really care about this poor family in China. Let China worry about poor families in China. That's why they have a government. That's, our government should be worrying about poor families in the United States. We've got cities that have been hollowed out. We've got rural areas, for that matter, that have been hollowed out by the loss of manufacturing in this country. And the two rationales that are most commonly put forward are the one that you and I just discussed, Michael. And then the second one is, manufacturing is crappy work anyway. We really don't want manufacturing here. Who wants to stand in an assembly line putting a bolt on a screw all day long for $35 an hour?
Right.
Nobody wants to do that. That's degrading work. Well, excuse me. I grew up in an era where people worked in factories. Half my, probably 3/4 of my friends' parents worked at Oldsmobile in the factory. My dad worked in a tool and die shop. There's nothing wrong with manual labor. In fact, manual, and I did a fair amount of it myself. I mean, working my way through college, I didn't complete college either, but I didn't work in an assembly line. But, I worked in a gas station. I was changing tires. I was doing brakes. I was pumping gas. I worked in a Bob's Big Boy restaurant as a cook and as a dishwasher. There's nothing wrong with that kind of labor. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It just needs, there's dignity in labor. There just needs to be reasonable pay. And as long as laborers in the United States are competing with labor from outside the United States that's a fraction of the price, David Ricardo laid this out in a paper called On Labor back in 1819. As long as the available supply of labor exceeds the demand, the price of labor falls.
Do you think we'll be able to sustain a manufacturing-based economy into the future?
Of course. China's doing it right now. Japan's doing it right now. Germany's doing it right now. Half of Germany's economy is manufacturing. They're one of the most advanced manufacturing economies in the world. Why? Right. Because they protect their exports. It's very difficult if you live in Germany to import things from outside that country, things of consequence. And, right. And it's very easy for manufacturers in Germany to sell things in Germany. And the way they do it, they used to do it with tariffs. When I lived there in the 80s, they did it with tariffs. I wrote a novel based on this about a guy trying to get around tariffs. I'm very, very familiar with it. But, when they joined the World Trade Organization, they changed that to using VAT taxes. So now, if you want to export something from Germany, they discount it by 17%, which was the VAT tax that's only supposed to be charged to Germans. And if you want to import a car into Germany, a made in America car, they add 17% VAT tax to the import price. So, we're back to the how much does it cost to make those shoes in Connecticut kind of thing. And every developed country in the world is using VAT taxes like tariffs, except us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.